Is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS, AM 1160 and 101.1 FM. And join us on Facebook Live for our conversation coming up here this morning with Michael Foote, Indiana Borough Manager, Peter Broad, Indiana Borough Council President. Gentlemen, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
It's good to have you both in the studio with us here today. It seems like every time it rains, not Indiana Borough specifically, but every time it rains, somewhere in western Pennsylvania, somebody's getting a flood. If it's a sprinkle, if it's a downpour, it doesn't matter. It leads to flooding issues. Kind of hard to figure out why, but this year we're 16 inches over the normal rainfall for a year, so you're going to have those kinds of issues. Indiana Borough must deal with them as well. So let's talk about stormwater and stormwater management in Indiana Borough.
Sure. Well, the reason why we're here this morning is just to let folks know that Council has approved moving forward on a stormwater mitigation plan. The key word that I want to emphasize, though, is that it's an action plan. We've done some studying. It's now time for action. And so what we've done is put together, or at least put together, the scope of work for our consultants to be able to now write a plan for us. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that the plan will allow us to then start looking at how do we apply or prioritize a variety of projects. So as we pursue various grant monies, as we work with our current CDBG plan, and I can tell you what the letters mean.
Community Development Block Grant.
Right. And so, you know, for folks that want to know, well, how are we going to pay for all these things? Part of that is we're looking at the state to help us with these different grant sources.
Uh-huh. And that becomes pretty competitive, doesn't it, Peter?
Yes, of course it does, because everybody's in the same boat that we are.
Yeah, that's the case. All right, so let's talk about it from a Borough Council perspective.
Well, from the Borough Council perspective, you may recall that last year we voted to increase taxes by a small amount to put money in our budget to deal with stormwater issues. Mm-hmm. Some of that money is what's going to pay for this plan. Some of it's already been used fixing issues here and there around the borough. But in the long run, the council has been working closely, and Michael has too, with the area-wide stormwater education project, which includes White Township, the Conservation District, County Planning Office, and so forth, because any water that comes into the borough, that's in the borough, comes from outside the borough and flows out. White Township starts it and gets it, but we have to deal with it as it comes through.
Yeah.
So you can't deal with stormwater just on a borough level. Mm-hmm. The water doesn't respect the political boundaries.
That's a good point. But it does bring up the point that it is a regional issue.
Yes, it
Waters
is.
flow through, and they go on their way, and more comes in to replace it, and so you have to deal with it in cooperation with others. Now, Michael termed this an action plan. At some point, the studies are never going to stop. You're always going to have to study the issues and find out what's working, what's not, and what would be the best solutions when the problem crops up. But an action plan means that you're ready to step forward.
Yeah, we're planning to start doing things, and we have some projects already on the books. This gives us, actually, this plan supposedly will give us an outline over the long term, 10, 20 years of what we're going to need to do. But in the meantime, we're also going to start right away with some issues. Anything that we do now is not going to fix everything.
Yeah.
We can fix one thing at a time, but if we do that just piecemeal, it could be chaotic. So we'd like to have a plan so that we know that it's happening in a rational fashion, with a goal of eventually eliminating flooding problems in the borough.
Absolutely.
But it's important to note that the reason why we're calling it a 10 to 20-year plan is to let our citizens know that we can't fix this overnight, and that it's going to take repeated actions. And so even with the work we're currently doing, you know, we've replaced about 900 feet of pipe. We've repaired or replaced 40 storm drains. And we've also had signs built for us, so when folks are driving around town and they're wondering what that project might be, we've said your stormwater's at work. And so the idea is that when you're driving by, now you can see the action. You
Yeah.
can see the work taking place, and you'll know it's not another utility. We're actually focusing on stormwater.
Yeah. One of the interesting things to me about this whole topic is that you cannot just do it based upon your knowledge, that you have to work with specific people who are experts in the field. So you have engineers who are helping you to tackle this issue. And then you get things like down there on Water Street where the tunnel underneath the street collapsed.
And we just repaired that.
And you just had to fix that. And,
Yeah, yeah.
and I think
So
that's
sort of
what
on
you're
the-
talking about, Peter.
Right.
I mean, something comes up, you got to do it now.
Well, and another great example is the collapse we saw along Marsh Run, and that was up around Wayne and, no, I'm sorry, that was North Water near Cherry,
Yeah.
where we had a major collapse, and we had to go in and repair that. So it's the things that we're planning for, but it's also having that ability that we have to respond
Yeah.
when needed.
Yeah. Band-Aids can only be so big.
Band-Aids can only be so big, and I do agree with what you had said before about collaboration. We need to collaborate with our adjoining municipalities, cooperate and collaborate with the county, because we've got to all work together to say, here's what we're doing and how can we work together to maximize our opportunities, both for funding but for efficacy. So how can we do a project that actually is going to work and be meaningful?
So engineers obviously study these issues before they make their recommendations. What have they told you about Indiana Borough and the state of its stormwater system? What are some of the things that they're telling you?
Well, I think some of what we're hearing, and we've got a couple of different studies going, currently going, and I did want to mention that we have partnered with an IUP professor who is doing quite a bit of study, monitoring the amount of water that's flowing. And so, we're
There's one of those monitors in the stream right behind my house.
Okay. So you know exactly what
Yeah.
it's about. Uh-huh.
Is that height that we know?
So
Oh, sorry, I was just looking for clarification.
going
'cause
over to the
'cause
manager there in the bullpen, huh?
Yeah,
Or
well,
in
I
the
was just
dugout.
looking at, because I know that the devices that are currently installed can only do so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to remember if it was just how fast it was flowing.
Yeah, how much water.
Yeah.
The volume of water
Right.
that's
and
coming
so,
in.
And so part of what we're going to look for too in some of our grant applications is the ability to monitor. Can we purchase through these grants devices that are a little more sophisticated where it can give us more information and more data? So that's going to be part of our focus too. So we can have good information. We want to be smart when we're doing a project, and we want to have it be data driven.
I know when we've had Dave Fairman in talking about this issue, that one of the things that can be a continual frustration, not that he's frustrated by it, but it's something that everybody who deals with that sort of a situation has to be aware of, is that if it's clean today, a year from now, it's going to be all cluttered up with limbs and branches and garbage and everything else. And it's a constant thing to get the system all cleaned out so that it can handle water when the time comes. Can folks help out in that respect?
We don't have anything set up right now, but other than the project that the IUP, that Katie Farnsworth at IUP is doing with her students. But there are periodically cleanup projects on the streams. There was one last spring, but those have been going on for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
And as you said, it fills back in again. Plants keep growing.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
some strange reason.
Well, Keep America Beautiful hosts the Great American Cleanup, and it's usually in the spring of every year. And so we've looked at, is there a way to actually participate in that program where we can have an organized cleanup around that effort.
Yeah.
I was part of the very early days of the coastal cleanups when I was down in Florida. And so it seems to me that folks really rally around water and water bodies.
Yeah.
And so that's my hope, is that we can somehow make that connection of going into areas that need a little bit of help.
Plus, folks that have those storm grates out in front of their house, and they can tell if, after the storm, if they're absolutely blocked off and water is sitting on top of the street instead of going down in, that
Right.
they can pull that away from there and help that water get down into the pipes where they belong.
There's the issue of people mowing the grass and putting it in the street, which clogs those
Yeah.
storm drains.
Yeah.
But when somebody gets 2 feet of water in their basement, they don't want to know what we're going to do in 10 years.
They want to know
They
now.
want to know what we're going to do right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And why didn't you do it last
frustrating.
week?
Yes, and why didn't you do it before?
But those are some of the issues that every municipality deals with. Any upcoming meetings or any suggestions that people call you or report things to you? How do you handle the issue going forward?
Well, I think, as opposed to someone that might feel that they are responsible to clean out their storm drain or catch basin, I think it's more of if they're seeing something that maybe we hadn't caught, to just let us know so we can actually schedule that.
Okay.
So that would be one thing I would say.
So you can call Public
Right.
Works and get that done.
And, in terms of the future, our goal is to have this plan written and complete to review with council sometime around the first of the year. That's our goal, is to have this completed by the end of December. And so we're hoping that we can just keep updating folks on where we're at
Yeah.
as we move forward with this plan.
Well, certainly water issues are issues that become of the moment.
Yes.
And we need to make sure that obviously people are safe, but
Exactly.
as well, we need to make sure that the water's going in the correct direction. And,
But it's always going to go downstream.
and that's true. Water's going to go where water wants to go.
That's very true.
And if we block it from its intended course, then it's going to find a way around. So,
Sure.
Indiana Borough, like everybody else, dealing with those stormwater runoff issues. Well, gentlemen, we're glad you came in today to tell us
Well,
about it.
thanks.
Hey,
It is an action plan.
An
now.
action plan.
All right, that's good to know. It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS AM 1160 and 101.1 FM.